So I just wanted to hop on and basically talk out my thoughts about the events of the last day. And I find it hard to imagine that we're not actually heading towards a coup. I think there's more than enough evidence already with just the two main pieces of evidence that came out today. Those being the firing of Esper, the Secretary of Defense, for someone who shouldn't legally be allowed to be put in, except for if the person is acting, then they don't have to go through the process. And actually, Trump's like basically circumvented a bunch of the rules by putting a bunch of people in as acting heads of groups rather than official ones. It's like that's really what you would do if you wanted to install a dictatorship. I mean, let's just call it what it is, right? So there's the firing of Esper, and then Bill Barr just came out and said that they're looking into voting irregularities, even though there is no evidence of massive voting irregularities. But they have been like stoking this whole thing like, oh, voting irregularities, it's all fake, and there's millions of dead people voting and blah, 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 all this bullshit. And I mean, of course, that's all intentional because they knew they were going to lose the popular vote, right? That much is crystal fucking clear. So it's just kind of like when someone plans to lie to you, what they do is they start seeding little bits ahead of when they know they're going to lie to you. Like if someone's going to cheat on you, right? The best thing for them to do is to say like, oh, I've got this new thing where I go to the gym every Thursday. So I'll be going to the gym every Thursday, right? And, then on Thursday they go and they fuck someone that you have not agreed to. Obviously, my feelings on ethical non-monogamy, but we're talking about just lying, right? Lying is never okay. And so how is this not going to be a coup, right? Like, that's one of the reasons that if you look back at my last video, I'm just super wary of people dancing in the streets like, yeah, we did it. First of all, you didn't do shit, okay? Like, the fact that people have such a misapprehension about how much our votes actually do is, and I get it, but it's also scary. It's scary how much people don't realize that the popular vote doesn't properly mean much of anything. And yes, I believe there are 36 states, but don't quote me on that have to go along with the will of the people in those states, but the other states don't, right? So this country was set up, the mechanisms of this country are set up to protect power. They're set up to protect, rich, white, male, landowner, etc. people. And that's why when you look at all these maps where it's like they show these maps based on the amount of location that has gone red. And it looks like there's so much more red because they're basically measuring like acreage. They're not measuring people. And so since people are so concentrated in cities, right, it looks like we don't have that many people, or that we have so many more people than they have, but they have way, way more land than we have. And I mean, part of that's baked in. So nothing is set. And I think one of the things that we should do, just as people who are paying attention, we should make sure to make sure that people notice that whenever it says, when you're watching the news, whether it be, hopefully you're smart enough not to watch CNN or MSNBC or heavens forfend Fox, right? But if you do, wherever you see news, right, you will see Joe Biden projected winner, right? Projected. And they have to say that because it's inaccurate to say that he's the president-elect right now, or that he has won right now, because our votes it's not like we vote and it's all done, right? Again, to be as charitable as I can be, and like I'm really trying not to be a fucking buzzkill, but like we really got to keep people educated and keep them on their fucking toes, because the shit isn't over. And they're about to come with their best material yet. And by their best material, I mean using force. Because that's when it comes down to it, right? Those who seek to maintain power above all, what it comes down to is force. And they will use all the laws, and they'll use trickery, and they'll use corruption, and they'll use all these mechanisms. And that's one of the reasons that we say that liberalism enables fascism, because liberalism uses all those same tricky shit, and it's all, they use all the capitalist bullshit in order to entrench their own power, in order to keep their money and keep their power, right? For us, and they have better politics as it comes to identity politics by and large, but nothing to back that up, right? But anyway, what they do is they enable fascism and they enable hard right ideology, because when it comes down to it, the underpinnings of it is force. And once you have stripped them, especially if they are beyond neoliberal into neo-fascist, once you strip them of all the sneaky ways they can keep power, then they're just going to go to force. And that's what they're doing now, right? It is legal for the president to fire whoever the fuck he wants and put in an acting head. And so what they do is, as an example, Attorney General Jefferson Beauregard Sessions, like the doubly, triply Confederate named Jefferson Beauregard Sessions, was the worst, most frightening AG you could think of. But there came a point when he recused himself because it was just basically unconscionable for him to stay in the position and adjudicate anything as regarded the matter for which he recused himself. And what happened? Well, 45 decides, that's not good enough. You're supposed to fucking do it anyway. You're supposed to do what I tell you to do. So, fired him and got Barr. And Barr is in many ways worse than Sessions. And it's crazy that one has to say that, given how just cartoonishly racist Jeff Sessions is. But Barr is smarter and better at the legal judo and better at minding his tongue and more sycophantic. So he'll do whatever Trump wants him to do. And that's what happens when you're consolidating fascism. You milk someone, and it's really standard abuser shit, right? If you're starting a cult, you're second in command, you want to be someone who will just do literally anything that you ask them to do, but without question. So you try someone, and if they don't do at some point they don't do what you want them to do, you fire them and you get someone else who will do anything. And you keep doing that until you've got people who are the absolute worst human beings you can get, who will do any vicious and or wrong and or, just essentially evil thing that you want them to do on your behalf. So that's the fact that he got rid of, and it's like, I'm not a fan of anyone in the security apparatus. All of those motherfuckers are need to go. But it's one of those situations where firing Esper right now, yes, they had a little bit of beef, but who doesn't the president have beef with? Let's be serious, right? But he didn't have to fire him right now unless there was a reason. And the most recent beef that they had was that Esper was unwilling to basically use the Insurrection Act to crack down harder on prosecutors, on protesters, not prosecutors, right? So that's a bad sign, because that's their main bone of contention. And so what does, and I'm working through some of this out loud, so just bear with me, but what do you need for this moment, right? You need to challenge in the courts in every way possible the results of the election. Because if you can get 3 or 4 states to refuse to certify their votes, and remember, none of the votes that we've cast will matter a goddamn if the people in those states refuse to certify. That's just how it is, whether we like it or not. And it's just something that we need to change and keep messaging more strongly about. Keep, shouting from the rooftops, basically, at people. So they get states to refuse to certify. And if they can drop, basically all they need to do is get enough states to refuse to certify to drop Biden below 270 electoral votes. If no one has 270 electoral votes, then, as I mentioned in my last video, it goes to a vote in the House. And that vote in the House is 1 vote per state. They win it, technically, legally, even though it will basically be like a judicial coup, right? They will. And the problem is, even have really cheated. So he will still fair and square be the president, right? And that's what we can't have is have him be legally still the president, because then he has the military. And if he has the military, that's where things get really dodgy. That's when things can get real fucked up. So that, you add the voting irregularities to firing the Secretary of Defense all in the same day, right? Because as much as people are like just clowning on Trump right now, and you love to see it. I mean, you you love to see it. No one deserves it more than he does, right? But a lot of it is just, it's premature. It's premature. That's my favorite tweet on the issue was by I don't remember who. I'll look it up. But it was essentially, this feels right now like the end of a horror movie where the villain is dead, but there's still like 30 more minutes to the movie, right? So they're coming back if you're smart. They're coming back. We have not finished this movie yet. And just like, I mean, the idea that people think someone who is such a clear, raging narcissist and a multi-time rapist, for whom there is a non-zero chance that he has done things with his own daughter, that not allegedly and obviously not confirmed. You don't want to be arrested for libel, but look into it. It's gross. He's not just going to give up. I mean, and any person who is abusive is going to keep doing whatever they can if they're genuinely an abuser, right? A lot of people want to just think he's just a moron and a loser and he's just going to slink off. But you're forgetting that this man has court cases coming his way if he's not president. If he has not the power of the presidency and he has not secured any deal from Biden to pardon him, he's not giving up power unless we physically take it from him, right? I really feel like we're going to have to repel a coup. And that sounds bombastic, and it feels bombastic even to say, because honestly, we are really pacified in the way that we think about politics. We really have too much started to believe ourselves in our bones about these laws and these norms and these forms, and the norms especially, because the forms, like I said, the forms are still with Trump. He's still the president, and he still has the Senate, and most of the Democrats in the fuck the fucking Democratic Party. They're so over. They're spending their time right now making sure the left flank of the Democratic Party does not get any power. They're using all their messaging time right now saying that it's leftists' fault that people lost races, when it's clear. You can map it out one for one. Who supported progressive and leftist policy? Well, progressive policies, because there weren't really that many leftist policies that were actually, that people are pushing for. But you know what I mean. Green New Deal, Medicare for all. The people supporting those things won. And the people who were bullshit, middle of the road, centrist and they're not centrist, they're right wingers, Democrats, they lost. They're the ones that lost those seats. And the leadership, the Pelosi's, the Schumers, the fucking Rahm Emanuels, the James Clyburns, these people need to be broomed off into the fucking dustbin of history as fast as is humanly possible. My belief, and more importantly, my logical assessment is that there is no hope through the Democratic Party. There's not. Like, I believe that there could be at some point, but the leadership will fight the left harder than they will fight the right at every turn. This is a time for messaging against Trump to make sure he gets out of office, to shore up any of the forms they can. But right now, they're too busy patting themselves on the back for having dragged Biden across the finish line. And it wasn't even them that dragged, it was us, right? It was the Black Lives Matter movement. It was all the organizing that has been happening around important issues, right? And it was even the remnants of the Bernie campaign, people who were like, fine, we got to support Biden, you know. And I mean, I supported Bernie hardcore, but you know, once I could not in good conscience fully support Biden. And there's a difference between voting for someone and supporting them, right? I would not vote against Biden because, I mean, of the essentially binary choice we were left with. I mean, the choice is clear, and I think it's silly to say otherwise. But I understand what anyone did with their vote other than vote for Trump, because that's unconscionable, and you know, that's all I got to say about that. You know, shout out to more white women than last time voting for Trump. What the fuck, y'all? What the fuck? What the whole fuck? And that's and the fact that that's still the conversation, rather than like, you know, like 70% of voters were white people, and more in a lot of cases. Well, definitely more in sheer numbers voted for Trump this time. And yet they're talking about the 10% of black voters and of like other minority groups. It's like they will do anything to deflect blame away from white supremacy and away from capitalism. And those are the two things those are the problems. Those are the twin heads of the demon. And of course, militarism as well. That rounds it out. American exceptionalism, you know, capitalism, and white supremacy. You know, and those are the three things that cause basically all our problems. And it must never be forgotten, and we should not ever stop fucking saying it, because it needs to be said. I'm not taking any blame for anything that happened or did not happen with the Democratic Party. First of all, the two-party system is a lie. It's bad for democracy. It's bad for us. It's not constitutional. It's against what even though fuck the framers and fuck the notion of the Constitution as the perfect document. There's definitely some good things about it, of course, but like, you know, the fact that the way that people venerate the Constitution it's ludicrous. You know, I don't venerate any document that's like 200 plus years old. Like, what are you talking about? You know, why is that? I'm more than 200 years old. I mean, come on. But anyway, so I think I'm gonna hop on later and do some other stuff. I'm gonna do maybe some tarot. Maybe I'll play some music, do a little guitar, and probably at some point I'm gonna play a little bit of FTL. That's really the only game I play these days, faster than light, and maybe a little Civ. Who knows? But please do follow. Click follow and subscribe if you want to, and yeah, help me spread the word. I'm gonna be on here a lot more, and there's a lot we need to discuss and help spread the word. And really keep your eyes open for a coup, and push back on anyone that says the deal is done and that he's just gonna leave peacefully. It's not gonna happen.